If your life was a movie, what would be the turning point for you?
Prison. Because I remember lying there when I was 19 with not a clue what I was going to do when I came out. When I was in there and they locked the door, your liberty is gone. I remember sat there and I said, I will never, ever come back to a place like this. My mum was, and my stepdad smoked a lot of weed, my mum drank a lot. It was a very intense house to be in because my stepdad, he didn't like me.
Where did the love for football start? Can you remember that moment? Or?
I think that's when people liked me. Because I knew I was good at that stage, 8, 9, I was really good. That's when the love came, because it's something that I was good at.
That's some deep-rooted shit though, isn't it? When you think about that, your love of football came from feeling like accepted because that's what you'd been missing earlier on.
The David Rocastle death is something that I don't think I'll ever get over. The hard thing about it was the phone calls. When I think of the phone calls, you go back to your childhood. You think back to when he was 9 and 10, because I can't deal with the fact that at 33 he was gone. I'm very God-fearing, and you know what I mean, I had to be because my mum was and we had to do all that sort of stuff, but that's when I have my arguments with God.
It makes you question life, man. It really does.
It does, and the thing is that with religion and all that sort of stuff, you have to have faith. This is why I do feel very fortunate with the way it's gone for me. You know what I mean? I honestly, and now I've got a missus, my 2 little girls. You know, I've got a missus that is just amazing. She's perfect. I just want to be remembered for the person that got the opportunity and did I rang it out. I wrung it out. There's nothing left in that rag to squeeze out, and that's all I want to be remembered for. What's it called? You see, with Al, what people don't understand is that when we're in the Match of the Day office, you know, when you see Al do those rants, when he says inept, this, that, dude, he's not. You know that he's not vexed with Rafa. He's not vexed with the players. He's vexed with the fact that the situation can't get any better, and he can't really do and say too much, but like this is the man. Honestly, you know what it means to him, Newcastle. You know,
he's God up there, you know. Honestly,
I love it. I love when I go up. And so I saw, where's that Alan Shearer way or something?
Man, I said people don't understand, right? Like Arsenal, they've got all the legends around the stadium.
Yeah.
Like, we couldn't do that in Newcastle, man. We've just based Shearer pretty much.
Yeah, but you know what's really quite sad for me, Wright, is seeing where the statue had to be situated.
Yeah, what was that about?
Well, obviously it's got to have something to do with your man,
yeah.
your top man there.
Yeah, well, they changed the name of the bar. It was Shearer's Bar, and it became 9.
And then for it to be outside where it is, down the road a little bit.
Yeah, it should be right.
Should be in
at the fucking entrance.
Right at the
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like Michael Jackson.
You know what I mean? Fucking Michael Jackson.
Can we just treat him as good as Fulham like Michael Jackson?
You know what I mean?
Do you know what I mean?
Is it too much to ask for someone to treat Shearer like Fulham treated Michael Jackson? Oh. He was inside the stadium.
Have you seen they're making a new documentary about Michael Jackson with HBO, I think.
Seriously? Like, I'll have to watch that.
That Wade guy who he taught how to dance. He was the one who did all the X Factor dance routines or something like that.
Right.
And he's in it because he previously went to the trial and was like, nah, he never did an out with me.
Yeah.
And now he's in the documentary and the people are saying he's going to be like, I lied. And like... So, because, I mean, there's nothing you can do now, but...
Yeah, but the thing is, I get the impression, like, with Michael Jackson that, you know, because he meant so much to me when I was growing up, I got the impression that Michael Jackson just got them kids and those youngsters around the house to literally, because we're talking about a grown man who's a child, he's a genius, but and like to literally show off and do stuff like, this is my giant candy floss machine. You can eat candy floss all day.
It was when the cleaners came out and started being like, oh yeah, like shit went down, that I was like, oh, because I grew up loving Michael Jackson as well, and I was like, oh fuck,
yeah,
he is weird.
It's one of those,
he's
man.
So weird, you just don't know.
It's the same, yeah, but the thing is, it's as like Bill Cosby, like fuck, man.
That was the worst one, wasn't it?
Yeah, but we're talking about one of the greatest. You know, he came through. You know what I mean? When he came through the comedy side, and you know, you'd hear people like Richard Pryor saying things like, you know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean? He's digging out Eddie Murphy for swearing and doing this and that in his concerts. He's drugging women. You know what I mean? People, and it was well known. It was well known that, like, people would say, you know, to women who are working in the production crew with him, watch him, don't go near him. Mm-hmm. You know, it's well known. So why didn't people just out him?
And he was like the American dad, the ultimate, like Homer
Jesus
Simpson
Christ,
and Bill
the Cosby's,
Cosby.
man.
Yeah.
The Cosby's was the ultimate like family show where you watch it with all the morals and all the stories, and you know it was like you think to yourself, God Almighty, talk about absolutely fucking just destroy your whole
childhood
perception of the guy. I dislike him with a passion, like same with R. Kelly, man.
Oh yeah, R. Kelly, he's got a fucking document. It's like we can't have people. You can't hold anyone up now, can you?
Because you're scared to hold them up.
Because you're like everyone's getting fucking accused, aren't they?
You know what I mean?
Ronaldo's got some fucking shit going on in the background. Chris Brown's just had someone getting him arrested. There's rumours about another sports star, and I'm not even going to mention who that is, but you know, we've all seen the WhatsApp group.
Yeah, but even with R. Kelly, you know, you listen to the songs, even the songs, you know, my mind's telling me no,
but my body's
he's actually telling us what he's doing. It's telling me yes.
She's saying no,
no.
Leave her alone, motherfucker. Don't touch her.
Don't touch her.
Stop it.
Your fucking mind's right. Your body's right. Which one was it? My mind's telling me no.
Yeah, listen to that bit. The mind, not your body. Have a wank, mate. Fucking hell.
You know what I mean? What's wrong with you? Knock one out. Jesus Christ.
No, you can't have idols anymore. You can't do that. Like, thanks for the coffees.
Thanks a lot, Lozza.
He's not actually the coffee boy.
Coffee guy.
He's just a good lad like that.
If there's anything I could forego with it, Brian, it would be the fame side of it. I think it's the most overrated thing in the world.
100%.
Fame is overrated, bro.
If I could do YouTube without it, I would be more than happy.
You know, it's very much overrated. Like, let me take this out.
Yeah, I didn't know how long you like it.
Well,
how does a man take his tea? It's so personal.
It's personal, isn't it?
It's really personal.
It's personal.
I don't like other people really making my tea.
We just sort of hit the ground running, as you'd expect.
I realise that.
Ladies and gentlemen, True Geordie podcast guest, the legend, one of my favourite footballers of all time. Yeah. But to be honest with you, not because of what you were like on the pitch. You were a great footballer, but your personality, like, you appeal to me as a Jack the Lad piss-taking type of lad, you know what I mean? A bit of banter about you. And among a sea of, no offence, but Michael Owens, you just, come on.
Chris Sutton's.
You shone out, you know what I mean? And I love that.
It was? Is that I was saying to somebody the other day, it was the rejection from the age of, like, I started playing at 8, the rejection from the age of 12, I think, and you know what I mean, I had trials with, like, wrote to all the London clubs, I had trials with Palace and Charlton and stuff like that, and Orient. Didn't get answers from the rest of them, didn't make any trials. And so I played Sunday morning football, and it's all about jokes and fun and trying to score great goals, and, you know, afterwards drinking, you know, lager and lime. You know what I mean?
You brought, like, that working man's attitude to the game. I feel like that's dead now.
I remember I played against Hartlepool, and you know, this was when I was at my height at Arsenal, and one of the players, I think his name was McGuckin or something like that, I can't remember, but like, he was just in the tunnel, and he's saying, fucking give it big time. I said, big time? I said, you're about to fucking walk out in front of 38,000. Of course it's big time. He said, you're a Sunday morning player. I said, I know, but now I'm playing for Arsenal as a Sunday morning fucking player. You know what I mean? I said to him, I actually said to him while we was playing, I actually scored a hat-trick in the game. I actually said to him while I was playing, it's actually, you know, you couldn't have paid me a bigger compliment. I'm a Sunday morning footballer who's now a professional footballer, but I've never lost my Sunday morning roots. You know what I mean? Going out all night on Saturday and then going straight to the game on the Sunday morning. And this is why I didn't think I was any good, because obviously got rejected so many times in the trials, and I was playing against, like, pub blokes and scoring 4 and 5 goals. And this is where I suppose I honed the just try anything, finish. Just try anything, finish. Anything, what comes into your head. And I never stopped that. When I went to Palace, Steve Coppell said that, never change what you are. We signed you for what you are now. Hone that.
You know, when you were playing at that level, like not the Palace level, but the Sunday morning level, did people come over to you afterwards and go, you got something special?
No,
or was it just like, it's just Ian?
No. What it was is that people knew of me, because everybody in the community and all around knew that I had trials and knew I was good. And there was always competitions, like there was a super malt competition where literally every black team in and around London would go to Rains Park, and it would be like a World Cup competition for that weekend. And you know what I mean? A lot of people would come and watch me because everybody's heard of this guy playing Sunday morning football who's not bad, scoring 3 and 4 goals a game. And it's really weird because I played in it from the age of like 16 to 21, and we got to the final at 20, when I was 21. And I get signed to Palace. I couldn't play in the final. Absolutely gutted. And the final was at Mitcham, Crystal Palace's training ground.
Super malt at half time?
Well, to be honest, and nutriment.
Right. Yeah.
Nourishment.
Good choice.
Obviously, I've done a lot of research on you. And one thing that, it kind of seemed to creep in at one point is self-doubt. Like when it all went tits at Brighton, it seemed like you were just like... Nah, like, what was it like being? Because we're looking at you. You've had such a career, but it might not have happened. It was on a knife edge.
Fucking absolutely,
so close,
sliding
and
doors.
not you not being sat here and being this guy. So what was that? Because I've not really heard you describe what it was that actually got you there to go and try out for Crystal Palace after Brighton messed you around.
It was luck, because the Brighton was a really low time. I'd not long come out of prison for driving offences, and so I was low as it was. Sean was something like Sean. I just adopted Sean. You know what I mean? Adopting Sean, I didn't even have a penny on me, but you know what I mean. It was a situation where I think that was my lowest point. I came out of the prison. My mum didn't want me in and around the house anymore, so I moved out. That's when I moved in with Sharon. But that was probably my lowest point.
There's so much to dissect there. So you went to prison. It was a short period of time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I went in for it. Worked out to about 21 days for non-payment of fines, because I had 2 cars when I was 17 with no papers, no tax, no MOT, no insurance.
People have asked me to ask you
Vauxhall
about this.
Viva and Fiat 125 brown and beige.
Just wanted to get that image. I love getting that image
So
of you.
it was beige at the top and brown at the bottom with Wolf race wheels, no bumpers on the front.
Worth it.
And
Worth the prison time.
To be honest,
classic.
Yeah.
You know something? You say that, Brian, but the fact is that 21 days in prison, because we'd never been in trouble with the police, any of my family, apart from my brother framed milk bottles in a lift and they got in trouble from the police.
We've all done that.
But the thing is that in and around that time, when I came out, it shaped me. It made me realise, because I'm not a thief. I'm not somebody that's in trouble with the police. I've got to work. Didn't do well enough in school. Left school at 13. Just turning 14. Went straight onto a building site. The first thing I had to do when I left school when I was 14 was I had to turn, like, they put 3 yards of ballast, and we had to do a foundation in a house, and I had to literally fucking mix up fucking 3 yards of cement on my first day, 14.
You're not a big lad either. Like at 14, you must have
you know what,
you must have looked like a child.
I was skinny. I was very skinny. But you know, and when you do the bonding for the plastering, which the guy was trying to teach me, they've got a whisker now. You can whisk it. You had to do that with a stick.
Oh yeah.
Right. So by the time you finish, so when I finished doing that 3 yards of ballast, my back was like a jelly. And you know, when I was walking, I literally couldn't walk, because my back was like jelly, and it made me realise, well, that was when I was 14. I said, geez, I can't do this. It's too fucking hard. And that's when you realise, Jesus Christ, I never done well enough in school. I'm going to be manual labour. And it took me all that time up to when I came out of prison to say, right, I'm going to try and find a trade and do the plastering, the brickwork stuff. And that's what I tried when I came out of prison. That's what I went to try and do.
So your mother was like, stay away from the house. What was your relationship with her before then? What was that?
When I was younger, because my mum was and my stepdad smoked a lot of weed. My mum drank a lot. It was a very intense house to be in, because my stepdad, he didn't like me. My older brother came from Jamaica when he was like 10. We didn't really bond. My brother Morris, who's my immediate to me, was the one who, you know what I mean, he's my guy. He was the one. It was rough in the house. You know, it was a time, like, I remember one of the stories that people always come up to me and they hug me to say about not being able to watch Match of the Day because I had to turn to the wall while you heard the music. So the telly would be there, and the bed, we lived in a one bedroom room we had in the house, and the bed would be here, my mum's bed would be over there, our single bed, and it'd just say, turn around to the wall. So you couldn't actually watch it. So it was that kind of stuff, and then, you know what I mean, can you imagine?
Do you mean just cruel for the sake of it?
Just for the sake of it, just because he could. And that was one of the biggest things. My brother when they used to be fighting and arguing, my brother would go like that to my ears.
Right.
So I couldn't hear it because it would make you cry. And it was that kind of, it was always quite a volatile place until if they finally broke up and left and that sort of stuff. But his daughter, my sister, Dion, she was a nightmare. We'd be in a room and like if it's just me and her and like my mum and she'd just go, ah! And they'd come in, bam, wouldn't even ask a question, my mum, bam, just a clip, something like that. And she would do that on a regular basis because she knew she'd get away with that. So the household was quite suppressive because obviously I was very violent when I was young. I was ready to fight like that, bam. So, because my brother would hold me down to the point where I think he's going to choke me out. And then just when I think I'm going to choke out, he'd let you go. And then my other brother would do the same thing because I was so... I just try and steam into him and see if I could get a punch in before they do what they do. So when I went outside, and then I couldn't get no joy from my brother in respect of anything. My stepdad was giving me a nightmare. My mum would clip me. My older brother would choke me out. My other brother would practice choke me out. My sister would act like I've just fucking done something to her. So you go outside and you're playing football. You start playing football. If anyone touches it, I'd literally bam turn into the Tasmanian devil. Just fighting everyone. Where did
the love for football start? Can you remember that moment or what it was?
I think we used to go and stay with my cousins in Hatfield, and I remember they called me Little Pele, and this is when I was like 8. Went to Hatfield, and you know when I think that's when people liked me when I played football. Everybody, he's on our side. We want him on our side. And when I realised, because I knew I was good at that stage, 8, 9, I was really good. You know, this is why it was such a nightmare when I didn't get into anything and people used to tease me about it. But that's when the love came, because it's something that I was good at.
The sense of acceptance.
I felt like that, yeah. And even like to a certain extent, once my brothers started watching me, they could see that
That's some deep-rooted shit, though, isn't it? When you think about that, your love of football came from feeling like accepted because that's what you'd been missing earlier on. Like,
well, maybe. And the thing about it is that when I had to latter stages, and I had to start seeing a counsellor about the anger issues, a lot of it stemmed back to there. Once, you know, because when I went there for the first couple of months, just lied, just went in and never even told her the truth. You know what I mean? She said stuff, lied. And then I remember one time when we sat there and I didn't say anything for maybe 25 minutes, and I was like that. And she's saying, listen, Ian, you're paying very good money to do this. If you're going to come here and lie, because honestly, when she said it, I was like, you know, you get, fucking hell. You feel like what's going on? She's fucking in your head. She's in your head. And she said that. And then, to be honest, when she said that, I fucking burst into tears. And I just blasted it. I told her literally what I told you now. It's made it a lot easier for me to be able to share it with people now, because I went through a lot of problems with it, because my mum and all the family and everybody was saying, once I started telling them, yeah, my mum drank a lot. And when I went to Arsenal, I used to go to the steps with people like Tony and Merce, you know, friends of Bob, that used to go to their meetings. And they used to ask me stuff. I used to tell them, yeah, about my mum. And they used to say, well, you know, you should see if you can get her in. You know what I mean? It was one of those situations where the family, they hated me. Especially, when was it? It came out, remember that Nothing to Something? Yeah. Well, that documentary where my face is just there. When that came out, fucking family just literally just went, bam, fuck you. Because I told the truth. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that was happening when I was younger, people telling me how much they hated me. If you're going to bring the kids round, don't bring the little one, was the thing they used to say. You know what I mean? And some of the times I'd go to someone's house and you would smash something off of their table, and then my mum would argue. You know what I mean? So it was really...
It's one of those things...
it's just fucking like that all the time. You know?
I'm good friends with a woman who's like 56 years old. She always says to me, you should always respect children, because one day you might wish you had have done. And I feel like this is a classic case of that, you know, because that kid in the corner eventually grew up.
Yeah, but the thing is, Brian, it's like you say that, and it's fucking happened to me. It's happened. It's happened in my life. All of a sudden, everybody was shunning you and don't want nothing to do. When I broke through at Palace, and we'll talk about how I actually got into Palace, all of a sudden I've turned into the matriarch of the family. I was the one. I was in charge of everybody. Fucking, I mean, I'd be at home on a Sunday, we'd play a game, be home on a Sunday, it'd be like fucking people rolling up to Don Corleone, we need this, the family hasn't got that and they need to do this.
Righty, we need a new car. You help me, Righty, please. I see you on Match of the Day, you're so good.
But with a Jamaican accent,
Yeah,
obviously.
fair enough. That's not Jamaican accent, that's right, isn't it?
But that's what it was like. So,
yeah.
So I've turned into the child, like the Bob Marley song, "The Cornerstone that the builder refuses in the morning becomes the head cornerstone in the evening." That is exactly what happened to me. I became the most important thing in the family.
When you were, so going back to when you were a kid, there's a video that a lot of people have asked me to mention, and that's the teacher video.
Mr. Pigden.
Mr. Pigden, yeah. And it's just an emotional one because we all want someone who believes in us. And
First person ever, Brian.
He seemed to be that
The
guy.
first person.
Was it the first man as well? Like
First man.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Lawrence. The first man. And this is why, I still have moments where, like even I say, I'll with my goals, when he realised, when I started playing football and he saw that I could play, he was the one who told me about Jimmy Greaves and passing it into the net, giving the goalkeeper no chance, score a beautiful goal, Ian, where the goalkeeper can't blame anyone. He can't even dive. That's what he would always say to me. But I remember the first time we met, I had problems in the classroom with paying attention. Seriously, as soon as I didn't get what they were saying, I just kind of got disruptive, and I'd get put outside the classroom. And
That's never changed.
No. And what happened is that a couple of times Mr. Pigden would walk past, and he was he always looked so smart, dark suits. He had those black Oxford shoes on, what were really shiny because he was an army man. He was a pilot in the Royal Air Force. Always smart, and he'd fucking walk past me and look at me. And remember, I was so small. And he's the person. This is why, even when you mention his name, it makes me get myself right, fix your business up. Because I like this. And he went in the classroom on about the third occasion he saw me out there, and he went in and spoke to Mrs. Dance. And when he came out, he just came out and he went, "Follow me, come with me." And so I went with him. And from then, he had me as he gave me private tuition. It was almost like, I remember I had to read the books, Roderick the Red, Gregory the Green, Benjamin the Blue. I used to read those books because I was really struggling. My writing wasn't great for a 7-year-old, and he just sorted everything out. And when I started playing football, and when I used to get angry, he'd take me off, and I'd stand there, I'd be like crying, because if I was losing, I'd start crying and I'd start lashing out. And he was the first person that would say, "Ian, count to 10. Count to 10. Has it worked?" And I'd go, and he'd say, "Do you want to go back on?" I'll go, "Yes." "Are you going to stop crying?" Say, "Well, when you stop crying, you could go back on." You ever try to stop fucking crying when you're crying? No, everything has to stop, he'd say. Everything. And to the point I was like, listen, he'd say, "You're running out of time." You know what I mean? He'd say stuff like that, then I'd get myself calm, and he'd calm me down, and then I'd go on a pitch and play. He was the first person that really showed caring and love that way from a man. A man that showed and really, he invested in me. And so that's the background of him. So I was doing a television program where I couldn't find him for 2-3 years. The teachers couldn't get in touch with him. Everybody else said, "No, we've not seen him. We're not sure where he is. We think he may have passed because we've not heard him." We're talking about 2-3 years of trying to find him. And it was difficult, very difficult, because I couldn't get in touch with none of the old teachers, even from the school. They couldn't find people. And so it's one of those, and I just remember that I had to do this television program, and they was talking to me about him. I said, "Yeah, I think he's passed away because I've been trying to get in touch with him for years, and no one could find him." And obviously the television people found him, and I was there speaking about stuff, and then he just came from behind me, and the first thing I done, I just took my hat off.
Straight away, sharpened up.
The first thing I done, like I said, I just took my hat off. And because it was so surprising to see him, and he said, "Ian, how are you?" Just fucking, I feel like I'm gonna go now. And because he was like three steps up,
you look like a giant.
I was still, so I was hugging him and I was around his waist. And he was saying things like, "I'm so proud of you. You've done really well." And I said, "I thought you was dead." And he said, "Well, I'm very much alive, And it was a situation where after that we stayed in touch. But I remember he came to watch me. He didn't make a fuss. Didn't want to come to some of the games. He came to a couple of games. I remember he saw a game I scored at Palace. I think we was playing against Brighton, and it was a game where there was like 5 penalties in the game or something, and I scored a left foot shot. Every time we spoke, he always talked about it. But the thing about him is that he was one of the pilots that when we won the Second World War, he's the one who used to talk to me about the trenches and people going over the top. He was one of the pilots chosen as the 18 pilots to do the fly over Buckingham Palace, and he said that when I played for England, it was the proudest moment of his life.
Wow. Because
all he wanted to do was teach. And you know what I mean? To be the pupil that made him realise that teaching is all he wanted to do, that was beyond me to comprehend. Even now, when I think
of I recently watched a Mike Tyson interview with Joe Rogan, and
I've got to watch that.
Just making Customaro happy was all he wanted. It wasn't really about the boxing as much as it was making someone like your mentor happy is like ultimate goal. Like
it is. I don't think you can. And he's the one. And no matter what was, I just wish that he was in and around me a little bit more for my hedonistic years.
Oh yeah,
you know, because
you might have listened to him.
I probably would have, because like I say, going back to all of a sudden. My guidance from a young age wasn't good. I didn't get good guidance from my stepdad, my older brother. Morris tried with me, but by the time it didn't work. I didn't get good guidance. So, you know, looking around at people, and, you know, people had girlfriends all over the place. It wasn't, I didn't have the upbringing that could guide me and let me realise that this isn't the way to
I personally, I was raised without, like, my dad was in my life, but kind of, but not really, if that makes sense. I feel it's really hard to become a man without having that man who's there to put and go, you know, like, you need to fucking shut up right now. Like, you know, and I
need that,
I became a worse person for having like that, you know, it's like when Pinocchio was in with all the jackasses, like, you know, you just turn into one yourself.
Yes, you do.
And I think I needed a good hiding a few times. Like,
well, to be honest, it was one of those situations where I remember I started to, when it would have been like 16, 17s, where I got a good hiding from a guy who turned into my best mate, one of my best mates. His name was Carl. He's a really good footballer. We played in the Supermall together. And, you know what I mean? Because I was the guy and everybody knew I was the guy. We were playing for 10&B and we was playing at the park and I was doing my stuff. And then me and Carl had this kind of altercation. And then I kind of went over to like, fuck, say, what do you fuck? And he went, bam, fucking headbutted me, boom, knocked me, fucking knocked. And like everybody, to a man, you know what I mean? Obviously they wanted to say I was all right and that, but to everybody said, you fucking deserve that. You've had that coming for a long time. Yeah. Because what was happening is that while I was getting more and more prominent in the non-league football Sunday morning game, I was getting a bit too fucking full of myself. You know what I mean? I was getting too full of myself because I was scoring 2 and 3 goals a game. You know what I mean? I was on a Messi kind of fucking thing in the non-league, bro.
Non-league Messi?
Yeah, I was non-league Messi, bro. I was scoring at least a goal.
That's the name of the podcast, the non-league Messi.
It's better for clicks, isn't it? It's better for clicks. You put Messi in the title.
But you know the thing is that I didn't actually. This is where the finishing and not bothering about how the finishing. When I got into the professional game, I didn't care about. I tried things because the worst thing that's going to happen once I realise in the professional game is people are going to go, or they're going to fucking think, oh my God, what unbelievable goal. So there's no downside to trying things, and that's where it came from, scoring all those goals in Sunday morning football. But like I say, I didn't think I was any good, so I wasn't really having myself. But I got bigger, got stronger. You know what I mean? Some of the times we'd go into places like Deptford, Thamesmead, like the Ferrier Estate in Sidbrook.
These are like rough areas in London.
Fucking rough areas, and you're talking about an all-black team, except the fucking goalkeeper, of course. No one fucking wanted to go and go. We had a goalkeeper. He was the one always kicked off our goalkeeper because obviously they'd say something to him like fucking nigger lover or something like that, and then he'd fucking out, and then everybody, then it steams in.
Wow.
We used to have to leave places. It was like fucking warriors getting out of some of these places. In the car parks, people running battles in the car parks.
It's mental, isn't it? It's like people take shit so seriously. No. Literally, it doesn't matter if you win or lose, lads. Like, it really is not going to change your life at this level.
When you go to places like Deptford, and you know you're literally, you know that you're playing in an area where It's just Millwall supporters.
Yeah.
The Millwall supporters come down because they're Millwall fans who are playing. You end up fighting. You end up having running battles to get out of Deptford, get out of there, fighting.
Did you enjoy that?
It was something that I think it kind of catered to that anger inside, because like it was me, my mate, my best friend Conrad was playing at the time. We could have a row. Freddie, Steve Elker, Tony Palmer, you know what I mean? Like Errol Palmer, Steve Chambers, you know what I mean? These people wanted to fight. They wanted to fight. You know what I mean? So it was one of those situations where you knew that once it kicked in, bam, everyone's in. You was all in.
So going from that to Crystal Palace,
Yeah.
was that like almost perfectly shaped you? Because then when you get to that level, you're like, we're not fucking fighting after this game. We're just chilling out. You know what I mean? Going for a meal. Is it like
a few drinks?
This is nice.
What was good is that when I got into Palace, it was 85. People were still kind of giving you a little bit of abuse and racial abuse and stuff like that. Where did you think to yourself, is this really your fucking abuse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to have to fucking run fight. You know what I mean? It was something that was very easy to deal with when you're right there.
Because you're hardened to it now.
Yeah, you was, because like I didn't realise that I honed all what I needed for the professional game, apart from the fact that I had that red mist, I could go like that. That was something that I had to control all the way through. But in respects of getting wound up on a Sunday, they couldn't say anything to me from the professional level that's going to bother me more than these guys said on a Sunday morning who were literally fucking jumping off trampets to fucking tackle you. You know what I mean? So I wasn't really afraid of what they were doing. I love it. So I found it very, very easy to take, but the outright in your face from the angry crowd just giving you was one of the things that was like, that was, when that happens to you for the first time, a real proper, like what we see, Raheem said, a real proper blast of racism. Yeah. It fucking stops you in your tracks.
Yeah, because obviously I've got no fucking idea what that's like from every angle. I don't know what it's like to be a footballer. I don't know what it's like to be a black footballer. So what's the actual emotion that goes through your body at that point?
That's a stripping of your. That's a stripping of you as a person that unless you experience like a real being racially abused, you can't really get into. It's almost it's making you feel like you're standing there naked and people are just fucking abusing. It's being stripped of all your dignity because you've got to be the person that stands there and takes that and turn the other cheek, like Martin Luther King said. You know what I mean? Because you have to do that up to this day. And it's a feeling that it doesn't just like so it happens and you carry on playing and it's fine because that is with you all the time you're playing. I remember hearing Paul Canaville say he stopped warming up close to the lines. He warmed up in the middle of the pitch so he didn't have to get it. It's something that you just can't. I can't explain it to you.
I watched that documentary.
In the dressing room, Bri, the boys, people, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Just keep playing. It's a hard one to deal with.
I watched the documentary that you did.
Yeah,
it was shocking for me, like, because my first game I went to was 1997, Newcastle, and I remember that game. Someone called David Ginola a fucking French twat, and I remember going to my mum like, "Oh, that's not a very nice thing to say, is it?" So I'd never known how like it, but that was as close as I'd heard.
That's as bad as it got in Newcastle.
That was pretty bad, but. He was having a bad game. But the thing is, when I watched your documentary, I was like, wow. Like, to me, it felt like it was way, way further away. I didn't realise how close it was to the present day, how bad it was.
Yeah, like you say that, Brian. Even we like Roscoe, my manager, and that now we still getting people saying to us they are so grateful to show that. We know we've already changed. We've changed the attitudes of young kids because when they saw that and we're talking about what 40 years maybe of racial abuse, and you can go further back, and then you go further back, and then what they've done, they've gone further back to find out what's going on and brought themselves up to speed, and they know how wrong that is. So it's done something in that respect to make, and that's how you're going to have to deal with racism. You're going to have to grow it out of people. It's going to have to be grown out of generations, and that is what you do. You just got to put a show like this so people can see it. All you get as a black person, if you highlight racism, you will be accused of playing a race card, and here we go again. People feel like me as a black guy, I've got the answers. It's not simple. Racism is complex. It goes back far. This is why when you see all of a sudden you get a black guy go on the radio for 4 minutes to try and talk about it, apart from John Barnes, who was magnificent.
John Barnes,
amazing,
unbelievable.
But the fact is that what you need is that for a longer period of time. People have got to know that there's not a lot of anger in it from black people.
Yeah.
When you've got people who can speak eloquently about it and concisely.
Different time as well, back in 85. Back in 85, because you could be overtly racist and people wouldn't bat an eyelid in the same way.
When I was watching the TV presenters, I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
what did he just say?
Yeah, but this is why where we are now, of course, we've moved on, because the mere fact that you're outraged thinking, my God, did he just say that?
These are like respected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you saw John Barnes and Peter Beardsley were under a sign. It had the NF sign on it. That's how much we accepted it. And so, you know, it's a situation where, you know, like I said, it will be something as long as people are not afraid to talk about it. You know what I mean? You can't speak about it with people who are closed off because they want an answer right now. Okay, get Ian Wright on. Okay, so what's racist? You know, I can't answer that. Just because I've been racially abused, I haven't got the answers for racism.
For me, it's always seemed, and this is just the way I looked at it for someone who's never suffered it, but people generally fear difference in some way, shape or form.
Yeah.
And this is just a really nasty, horrible, dark version of that. It's like the worst possible form of that. And the more you keep speaking like this, the better it's going to be.
That's all it is, guys. That's all it is, you know, people being able to like myself, a black guy, be able to just speak about racism in this kind of forum, so as people don't feel like you have to be embarrassed about it, because it's nothing to be embarrassed about if you are ignorant towards it and you don't know. You need to educate those people.
There's a kind of like a new form. It feels, and we're skipping around all sorts. Fuck it.
Sorry.
Well, you mentioned Raheem Sterling there. The papers seem to be, you know, honing in on him for that reason, and it's like, you know, it's bad enough when people are in the fucking stands doing it, but when the fucking respected supposed you know, journos are at it, how does that make you feel? Because you're you're a journalist now, really.
Yeah. I feel when you look at the way Raheem is treated in there, and the fact is now that Raheem and the guys and black guys have got platforms now where they can answer it themselves, and you saw what Raheem done with his post and what that done. It made the journalists and people think more and in depth about what they write and how they word what they're saying. But
can I ask, do you genuinely think it did? Or do you think because
I think they had to realise, Lawrence, what they were saying and how they said it. Because even when you looked at that piece and the way one of the black guy was portrayed for splashing out, 2.5 million splashes out on house, you know, £25,000 a week, the Manchester City player splashing out on house for mum, and then you got the Phil Foden footballer by his house.
Sweet, yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, and that is what Raheem has shone a light on. And you know, when people saw those in isolation, you think to yourself, okay, now, and you did. So you look at it, Lawrence, and you think to yourself, well, that's a little bit of a fucking difference in the way that they're explaining those two stories.
The thing that strikes me is like racism, since, you know, watching your documentary and seeing how overt it was, has found more subtle ways of being racist, which is why they never went, this black guy bought a nice car. They go, Raheem Sterling, we all know what he is, bought a car, a bit too much. Like, it becomes...
Then he didn't wash it,
exactly.
Fucking Trump.
But that's the point, is like the implications of those things, and it's the silent implications of those things. That's hard to fight, because you can't come in and go racist, because they were not being racist, we're just pointing something out. That's almost as bad as being like fucking whatever.
You know, you know something, I'm going to say something, it's probably controversial, but I think that when you think of racism and how far it goes back and how it's intrinsic, it's in the DNA of people, and that's passed down the different generations, and you almost get the feeling that it's almost like he's just, let's make sure he knows his place. That's what it is.
I remember my granddad saying to me, like, black people are lazy and things like that. And I remember being like, Why you say like? But as a kid, luckily for me, I was smart enough to realise he's a fucking idiot as well. So
Granddad's are lazy too.
yeah, but like I mean, but it does get passed down.
Yeah,
it does get passed down.
Yeah, and you know what I mean. This is why when you say the ignorance of it, if you reach the right person, so if you reach you, you're going to be fine. And then when we reach you, then you're going to tell somebody, say, well, to be honest, that's bollocks because of the, and then you'll be able to reach and teach another one. But like in respects of someone like I say, like Raheem, and the point I made about like stay in your lane almost, know your place. It's got that vibe about it, the way it's done, and like you mentioned, it's subtly done. You know what I mean? We're talking about somebody who, with his childhood and everything what's gone on, with his father and the fight that he's had to get where he is. And let's face it, at the moment, Raheem Sterling's playing a brand of football that I didn't think he'd get to the level of when he was at Liverpool. You see him proving, but he is actually, he's absolutely brilliant right now. So the journey he's had up to this point, with everything that's gone on behind the scenes and the personal journey, is much more interesting than the car not being washed, shopping at Primark, you know what I mean? All this bollocks. What comes on? This story, what he's got, where he's got to where he is now, is so inspiring, and not just for black kids, for everybody, because he's gone through a journey which has been very, very difficult. But they do like to harp on the negativity of the so-called stereotypical young black guy with money, cars, having a good time. We see all players at some stage having parties, doing stuff, but they really focus on him in that way. And that's why when I mentioned it, and I don't want to go too long about it, because it can get really hard for people to listen to when you're talking about racism, but it's not simple. And this is what I'm saying. But what you want is for people to just to treat him fairly. And this is why when you say about how they wrote it, yes, it's tinged with racism, and we've just got to accept that so as we can move on.
Because one thing that my first job actually in football was with you, football journalism.
Yes.
You and I filmed together.
I knew you'd find a way to get
on a green screen. No, but the interesting side of it was that we had Dubry on, we had Clinton Morrison, all these players who everyone went, I looked up to Ian Wright. Ian Wright was my hero. And then there's a video, a night video of you taking like Raheem out to like some fish and chip shop or something, having a chat with him.
Yeah.
It does seem very much, and the way you speak now, you can even tell you're a bit of a mentor for all these people because you're someone who's passed knowledge on.
Yeah.
Was that something you consciously did, or was it like just the people will come to you, like and just be like, Ian, I don't know what to do. How did you deal with it?
In respect of role model?
Yeah, like because every black player I've ever spoken to has always said Ian Wright was of a certain generation. Always goes, Ian Wright's the man.
Because I came from a similar background to them, and what they've seen is that my personality, of course, you know what I mean. I've knocked my edges off. I know exactly how to be in certain situations, but I'm exactly who I am. I still am Ian Wright, who came from Sunday morning football and realizes I was very fortunate to get the chance I got and took it, but I don't change the way my personality is. That's what they recognise, and they recognise as well that you can do it as well. It sounds very obvious that people say, yeah, but that's why I looked up to Ian Wright because he came from the same kind of place, and I realised that Ian Wright's there doing it, so I can do it. And that is as simple as it is. And so what you do is you want to try and make sure that you're blasting the path what you're doing, how you see it. I'm not going to try and say, oh, I'm not going to do that because if I do that, then they're going to do that. I'm doing what I'm doing, and I will make mistakes. But what you've got to understand is that you have to be able to be in a position where you can speak up about stuff so as they are not afraid to get to the same level and realise that, yes, there is certain things that you can lose by speaking out and speaking your mind about certain things that might be quite friction, cause friction with people. But if you believe it, and it's the truth you're telling, you have to stand by it. And I've just always tried to be very true to myself with what I'm doing. I've made a lot of mistakes, but like my heart and the way I am and the people I've got around me, everything's in the right place. Mm-hmm. This is why when you certain things that come from social media in respects of abuse and that it doesn't matter. Honestly, I'm impervious to it, and that's why I can laugh and smile at it because they don't know me. And when I speak to those guys, I said you've got to be true to yourself, because if you're not, it will come to the light. You know what I mean? But just do what's right always. I
like that about you because you've never. I don't know if you've ever I'm sure there's been times where you've been challenged to keep a hold of who you really are,
Yeah.
especially with all that money and all that fame. But you've definitely maintained that, and you're definitely there now. There's one footballer I feel right now is not sort of a man of the people the way you are, and that's Rio Ferdinand. I think some of the things he's been saying lately, I know you're kind of mates with him, so that's why I want to bring it up. He's obviously been chatting shit about Newcastle. Now that's fine. Like you say, people are going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But my main frustration with him as a pundit is the fact that when he had the thousands of tweets basically saying, this is why you're wrong, this is why you're wrong, this is why you're wrong. Yeah. And he was clearly wrong. I mean, we're not even going to get into why he was wrong, because we have a fucking day. But the point is his attitude, rather as a professional pundit, rather than be like, you know, like you just said, hold me hands up, you know, I'm going to make mistakes, I'm a pundit. It was to put the fishing rod out and be like, oh, I was trolling you on BT Sport where I'm paid to know what I'm talking about. I was trolling you for all that money. I just feel like that guy who comes from a similar place to you hasn't kept the grip of, or at least that's the way it feels as someone like looking at him.
Well, what's going to happen is that with the incident, you know, it was factually wrong. And so, unfortunately, for Rio, whether he's got the right people around him to say, listen, Rio, you know what, that's actually, maybe we should just, you know, maybe just like ease off away from it. Because I remember when I had a go at Newcastle fans about Andre Mariner getting so much stick, it was unfair for the Newcastle fans to give him that much stick and put him under that kind of pressure. They came for months. That was just
I think it was the supporting Pardew. When you supported Pardew, that really didn't help matters.
The thing about it is that we'll get onto that, but I don't want to deflect from the real thing, because there's not really, it's not, I cannot sit here and defend because it was factually wrong. What I find very surprising with that he continued to
antagonise.
And that is maybe something that if he in hindsight he wouldn't do. Again, if he had the opportunity, he wouldn't do, because what it will do. And you saw there was a lot in the comments. There was a lot of people, and they weren't just Newcastle fans. Because what happens is that when you got so many people coming giving you the facts and the facts of what's going on. Like me, I've been wrong on Twitter and so many times. I'd like to think not factually with what I'm doing, because I've got people around me that won't let me get into a situation where you say something was not factual.
Kelly Cates is good with that.
Absolutely.
She brings you right up.
Brings me right
when
back
Wright is
up to
wrong,
speed.
Kelly Cates straight in there.
And so when you've got that, so I know that I'm safe in that respect. But when I'm wrong, maybe abusing, or because I have my moments where I just hammer somebody on there who's being a dick. You know what I mean? Then people will come say, righty man, come on, you're bigger than that, shouldn't you? Then you leave it and then say, bam, sorry, that was wrong. Sometimes you just need to do that. What you have to notice, and I know that my allegiance to Alan Pardew, right, is something that obviously wound him up.
But I was on your podcast about this, because you were like, I had to ring in, and I remember he was like, nah, he's not doing that bad. And I was like, I'm telling you, man, he's shit.
But you know the thing is that Newcastle fans will know that there's some of the times it was terrible. It was terrible what was going on with him, and he was a Mike Ashley man. If we're going to go deep into it, but the fact is, he is somebody that I've known since 83, 84, and I'm not saying I'm backing him and some of the poor displays and what happened at Newcastle just because he's my friend, but anybody will know that if you've got somebody that is your friend and you're in the media, you cannot hammer him like that. You can't you can't put him away, because Alan Pardew himself has been upset with me because I remember we had to have a discussion before we do the debate show when we was doing it, because he didn't want to do it with me because he thought that some of the things I said about him in the past he didn't like because we were mates. And this is where the Newcastle fans have got to understand that I'll be balanced. I will not.
But the thing is, though,
absolutely.
We every Newcastle fan would understand that you're mates with Pods from back in the day, and I don't think anyone would have. Everyone's got a heart, and everyone's got mates, and everyone understands that. But when you're literally spouting incorrect facts,
this is what I'm saying.
In the words of Rafa Benitez, we're talking about facts. All right.
Otherwise, you're fact.
You're chatting shit, Rio. Okay.
That's what Rafa should have said.
That's it.
It would have been. But the thing is, this is what I'm saying. You can't defend that, and this is why it's very surprising, because I've worked with him, and I know that he's very meticulous in what he's doing. But I'm not going to make excuses for it. You know what I mean? He's just come back from the Maldives. Maybe his head's still in the clouds. I don't know what happened, but I would love.
You're not
to
making
have
it better when you say he's coming back from a 5-star holiday, right? He's just come back from a.
He's just come back from the Maldives.
I read it.
Who gives a fuck about facts? I'm chilling
with his amazing girlfriend. He's just back.
I read that. So you know what I mean. I don't know. Sometimes he was off guard, but like I say, the only thing for me is that I think that once it started to get into the realms of the people are starting to question your credibility, then somewhere along the line, in respect of management, somebody should be pulling that up, because I know my man Roscoe.
My favourite thing Rio said of everything, when he went, I mean, why buy you two £30 million players when they get injured?
Yeah.
And I was like,
what?
What? And what is... All right. As it happens, little fact though,
Go on.
just to come out today while we're on the subject.
Rafa Benitez net worth
Newcastle,
23 million.
178 million were made in the last year.
Wow.
And we're now the 8th richest club in Premier League.
In Newcastle.
In the Premier League, though. That's sick.
There are some
well done, Mike. Well done.
He's good.
Congrats.
Good. Yeah.
So is that are those funds available to Rafa?
So what,
we're going to buy
Mike
5 HMVs. It's fantastic news.
What Mike actually said a year ago is, I'm going to make every penny available to Rafa Benitez. Obviously, clearly making a lot of money. We're minus 8 million in the last year. We're in profit, so that's...
Can I ask one thing? Now we've set the record straight on Newcastle and those guys. What's it like when... Have you ever been on set when someone is just absolutely chatting shit and you just have to... Apart from Alan Shearer. Like,
don't say that about fucking Alan Shearer,
right. You sit there and you're just going... What is he doing? Like, you are going...
Oh, that must have happened. That must have happened.
No, the next see my eyes.
Yeah.
I'm not... No. I would... you know something?
Or is there a bit... Like, next time you see Rio, are you going to be a little bit like... Yeah, come on, Rio. Or is it just like...
No, well, to be honest, we'll just be normal, because I won't say anything, and I'm sure he won't bring it up.
Do you remember that time where I fucked up on camera? Yeah.
No, just generally.
I just won't.
When you're a pundit, though,
when you're a pundit,
surely.
You've sat there. I'd say more early days. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to fucking sit here and out people. You like trying to get me to sort of comrades.
No, but I'm not asking for actual names. I'm not asking for names.
You sat there and you thought, and you know what happens when you sit there and you hear somebody saying something what you think that doesn't sound right. Then you've got a predicament. You're in a predicament there simply because.
Do you remember, the Shearer Jenis, I don't know if you remember this, Shearer shut Jermaine Jenis down big time on something he said about, was it the Chelsea Spurs game?
Yeah, it was Chelsea Spurs, and he said that they deserve to win it.
Oh yeah,
and
Shearer shut him down.
But the thing with, but Shearer has got that, Shearer's got the filter. He's got the filter, and he's like that. You know what I mean? You look at him, he's fucking, you know what I mean? It's brilliant to see him smile. It's fucking great to see him smile. That's why I constantly send him.
He's a beautiful man, isn't he?
It's good to see him happy, isn't it?
Right, I love seeing him happy. But he is one of those people that if he hears bollocks, he's fucking not having it. And the thing is,
bullshit.
Wait. That's what he should do. Some fucking gifts.
Bullshit, man.
He should do some gifts. Way back, ever since I've known him, he's never sat there, people talking, saying something, and he wouldn't say, it's bollocks. He'll say it. He won't sit there and listen to like maybe Jermaine talking about Tottenham deserve to win it, because he said, Alan, they conceded 4 goals. How can you deserve to win it and they conceded 4 goals? Yeah, but the way they played, the facts are they conceded 4 goals. How can you deserve to win a game? You know what I mean? So that's the thing with Al. And with me, like I was saying, the point with me is that you hear them saying it, then you've got a problem where you can think, now, do I say... Well, no, what happened there was, and then you correct them in front of fucking people on the television. Then all of a sudden you're thinking like, that might be a bullshit move.
And you've got limited time as well. You've only got like 10. Yeah.
So then so what should happen from a production point of view? You should not be on there unless you've got the facts of what you're going to be speaking about. So then you know. So that's sent to you.
That's what happens with me. That research? You do that. You do quite a lot of research.
Well, what's it called? Especially now with my new management. Anything what we're apart from here, I've got to go fucking fly solo with you two. I don't know what's coming next. But the fact
you'll find out. Yeah.
But the fact is, with us, if I've got to do match of the day, then we find out what games we've got, who we've got, and then we find out who I want to speak about, and then bam, we speak about what we want, and then we find out what we're going to say, and we that's what we do.
When it comes to being a pundit, right, nowadays, we know you and Shearer especially as like the faces of English football now. Like you guys are the ones who we look for every weekend. Pretty. I mean, there's other ones on there, but you are the ones everyone's favourites, right? That's clear as day. But it wasn't always like this. You had a period of time where you went really quiet in the media and you drifted away. And I remember being like, what the fuck happened to Ian Wright? Like, because you were this huge name, huge face, and then all of a sudden went really dark, really quiet. What happened there?
You know what happened, Bright, is there was a time I was at Match of the Day, and it was the Jester thing. It was funny, I was at Talk Sport.
Yeah.
And I'd done a piece for Talk Sport, and I kind of I ranted off. Fucking just went off on, I've got things to say. Sitting at the end, you got Anson, then you got Al, and then you got me. And then what would happen is that Alan would say something, then I would say it, and when it comes to me, it's literally done. And then, you know, the things what I wanted to wear, things what I would say, I'd make jokes. Then people, if social media was about as much as it is now, I'd probably get slaughtered. Because then people would say, what's he adding? What's he doing? Because I'd find that I'm on the end and there's nothing left to say. And so I remember doing a piece talking about, listen, I don't like this rigid BBC, go to Alan first. You know what I mean? And then he takes up all the stuff. And you know what I mean? Every time I say something, someone from the fucking upstairs at the BBC comes down and says, yes, we need to see Ian Wright. He's said something that we're not really happy with and this and that. And
I've been there.
You know what I mean? And then it was the same thing. I remember like Paul Scholes, I mentioned the word, I think it might have been at the World Cup, creaming. Oh, he's got to be creaming about that one. Right? Fucking honestly, people.
I don't know why that's so funny.
Can you imagine the fucking the people
BBC
upstairs at the BBC? The tea spat out.
There's so much paperwork to do.
Absolutely.
The word creaming was said on Match of the Day.
He's worked with the BBC before, and he told us what.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that then what happens is that is it the duty log?
Yeah,
went fucking mad. So if 3 people, we're talking about how many people? 16 million people in England. If 3 people say I was offended by Ian Wright saying this and that, so that happened. But guys, nearly on any time I was on, that happened. It got fucking jarring. It was fucking so angry.
Were they telling you how to dress? Did you say?
Well, to be honest, there's certain things they weren't telling you how to dress, but like your mannerisms and stuff. You know, they were trying to hold me into this guy that will be the one that
Mark Lawrenson.
Yes.
They wanted you to be the next Mark.
Whether or not, but it felt like I was being cajoled and danced this way and don't dance. And so I blasted off in this piece talking about it. And then what happened is that the BBC obviously dropped me. And then what happened was...
Is that obvious? Did that not feel a bit unfair to you?
At the time, you ain't got no one to back you up, have you? You haven't got anyone to... I didn't have not one person come out and say, yeah, Ian Wright's right. You know what I mean? You don't hear what he says. He hasn't got anything. That's why, it seemed like he was a jester. You know, so what's had to happen is that I've left the BBC, then I couldn't go to ITV because the fella who got rid of me, Niall Sloan, who's now like a father figure to me, Niall, he went to ITV. So Brilliant. I couldn't get work at ITV. so in the end, that's where I
you were shut out.
Yeah, shut out. So you ended up having to do stuff in Qatar for I think it was Al Jazeera at the time or something. And I was doing radio.
God. Is that where? That's kind of where our lot get banished to. Richard Keys and the like.
That's where you're sent when you're naughty.
That's where you go. Yeah, Fuck off. Don't come back.
Jose's over there at the moment.
People act like you're still fucking top of it. But what happened when I went there was because you had such a short amount of time to try and express yourself and say stuff, is that you had a much longer time to do stuff. And then what I'd done during that time was I just started to read more and just be more in depth with what was going on because I wasn't on telly. And in the end, I just thought to myself, well, I just want to know more. So I just fucking blasted into just getting more and more and more to the point where I remember ITV wanted to do, the same guy, Niall Sloan, wanted to do a piece on Laurie Cunningham, his life. And you know what I mean? Laurie Cunningham is a big hero of mine.
Yeah.
He was the one I looked up to as well as Cyril Regis and the guys. And so they said, well, we can't do it if Ian Wright's not involved. And so at the time, I kind of said to them, listen, I'll do it, but at some stage, you've got to give me another blast on it. You've got to give me another blast. You know what I mean? So it went like that. Excuse me. And so in the end, they said, okay, so I'd done that show and it went really well. People really loved it. And said, it's Ian Wright. It's great to see Ian Wright on television again, this and that. And so they got all that kind of feedback. And then they gave me Chelsea versus Brentford and I was with Martin Allen, which was like a fucking home run because I don't know what the fuck he was talking about. Literally didn't know. He was like in some other thing, and I just bam.
He set you up to look fucking great.
Oh mate, it couldn't have gone any better. And so honestly,
Shunned.
from then it just went. I got another one, and then all I'd done during that time was just continuously worked on researching and making sure that you're factually right and that. And now that's where I am. So that's how that happened. And that time I wasn't in it. I missed it. I missed not being in it. I was doing a bit of radio and stuff like that, but
it's a crime though because you were always you had your own TV show.
Yeah.
I remember watching This Is Your Life with you, with me, Martin, being like, "Oh, he's got so much personality." Like, no, I couldn't believe it because footballers were just boring to me back then. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
Beckham.
But that's what happened, Brian. Because all of a sudden, I wanted to do my badges, right?
Yeah.
When I finished playing, I had the time, I had the money, I had the time to be able to do the badges, which would take 2 years to get everything done. Because all I do now is question, I wonder if I could have been a manager. I know how hard
What do you mean
is.
could have been? Why not? Why not?
Because
now?
I'm not sure if I had the leadership qualities, and now that I didn't take the badges to get myself in the arena to try, it's a question where, I'm quite pleased I don't have too many regrets, but this is a regret. That I didn't have the
Will
balls
you ever
to
do
say
it?
No. Will I have the balls to say to those managers at the time, no, I'm going to take a couple of years off, but then you got them saying things like, but they're going to forget you need
Why
to
you're
stay.
hot,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And so in the end, that's how I went to the television, reluctantly. When I first started, yes, I was doing people like Denzel Washington, Mariah Carey, Will Smith, and it was fantastic. But then,
excuse
bam,
me,
bam, bam,
watch
just
those,
fucking
yeah.
drop those in because
Coming soon on the True Geordie podcast.
Next week, mate. So
and so what's it called? So what happens is that you're doing it and it was brilliant and you're on a crest of a wave, but then that kind of eases off. And then all of a sudden you go to the BBC and then they want you to do stuff, but we don't really want it to happen like that. So then they're trying to fucking mould you into this again. And so then I started to lose my way with it because I thought, I don't really deep down want to do this. This is not really what I want to do. I want to be doing football stuff. And so you're in these contracts and you have to wait till they finish. And then once they finish, I stop. But then I lost my opportunity to do the coaching because I watch it now and you see people getting sacked after like months and it's fucking ridiculous. And you think to yourself, could I do it? Would I be able to deal with the press? Would I be able to deal with an owner like that? He's not giving me the opportunity and the capabilities to.
Would you?
To do it?
Lawrence,
I don't think I'd be a good manager because I haven't got the patience. I haven't got the patience for it. And yes, I've been doing punditry for a while and I've been in that nice warm fucking booth where everything's
Everyone looks after you.
Everyone looks after you.
Tea when
And
you want it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Cake.
you get into
One thing we haven't touched on, which you explained what you were doing, but you went from football, then TV football, and then all of a sudden, like very little. A lot of people describe that feeling like when you're not doing what you've always done. As like a bit of a life-changing moment. Was there ever a moment where you wake up and be like, "What the fuck am I doing?" Like, what was that like?
So many times, simply because I think the reason why I dealt with it as easily, a lot easier, I should say, than people who have been in the game from the age of 16, and then you retire at 36 like I did, is because I had a life before. So I wasn't like all of a sudden retired and what now? Sitting there, gambling, drinking and stuff like that. I didn't do that. You know what I mean? I was more active in myself. You know what I mean? I wasn't. My sliding door moment, like when just to quickly go back to Palace. I got a good job. I had Sean. Bradley was just born, and Palace came for me, and I turned them down 3 times. And I tell this story all the time because I didn't want any more rejection. When I went to Brighton for 6 weeks, I begged, stole and borrowed to try and get down there. Scored in their first team games, scored in reserve games. It didn't happen. And it was the fucking last time I wanted to be rejected. So when Palace came, I turned them down 3 times. And I remember there was a time when I was at Tunnel Refineries and I went to have my lunch. It was egg sandwiches, egg rolls with those crusty rolls. I remember it.
Beautiful.
Because me and the foreman, we never ever crossed paths in the canteen. And I used to do this thing where I was just fucking skiving really, but I'd walk up there as quick as I can. So people say, fucking hell, that geezer's always working. But I'd just go up there, find somewhere to just loaf for half an hour and not do anything.
Yeah,
and then
that's
just
my kind of graft.
You know what I mean? And then I just fucking walk down there with like real purpose, and people say, "Fuck, you're always working, always busy doing stuff." But I was just fucking finding another place to skive. And this particular time, we got into
That's amazing.
You know what I mean?
I love the idea he's walking really quick and they go, he's going off to Sky for half an hour.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My favourite skive is when you just sit in the toilet for like half an hour and just be like,
as long as the toilet's warm. As long as
There's
the
no
toilet's
mobile
warm.
phones back then. You couldn't do that. You would have just been looking at a wall.
So then we end up in the canteen together, and by this time I'd been asked by Crystal Palace twice to have this 2-week trial, and I turned them down. And I was sitting there eating. He said, "So what's happening?" He said, "No, nothing much." He said, "What's going on?" He said, "What's going on with the football? Are you playing?" He said, "Yeah, it's going really well. Your Palace here, they offered me that trial again. They want me to go." He said, "Listen, man, they've offered you. That's the third time now. You know, what I mean, that says something to you." And I explained to him what happened at Brighton. The fact that I was really afraid of rejection and going back to the community for another trial, and then everybody in the community saying, "Yeah, fucking, you're good with us, but you're shit when you go to the." And that was one of the main reasons.
Did they enjoy saying that to you? Do you think? Did they enjoy being like, "Yeah, you're a bottle job"?
You know, you walk into the dance and everybody's in there, and like they said, "Yeah, look at him. Yeah, he's just come from Brighton. He ain't good. He's only good." You know, you hear those things. You know, my brother would hear it a lot more. Yeah. Brother would get into a lot of conversations and arguments about people digging me out for not being. Yeah, he's just when he come from Brighton. So when I had a trial for Palace, I just said to him, "Will you be able to keep the job for me for the 2 weeks?" Because obviously, new kid, which is Bradley, Sean was like 3 and 8 months off, just coming up to 4. And I said, I literally can't afford to lose this job. You know what I mean? And he said, "Yeah." And I literally went to Palace, the trial, thinking after 2 weeks, I've got the job, don't give a fuck. So I just
You were 22 then?
22, yeah.
Man, 2 kids at 22.
Yeah.
You're risking it. You're risking it all playing a game of football. I fucking admire the balls.
You know what? I tell you what was really one of the most vivid memories I have of it is that I remember when I had to go to the trial on the Monday. I was having a bath in the morning, and Bradley would always come. He's about 18 months. Always come in the bath and fucking continue to eat the bubbles out of the bath, and I'd have to fucking stop him and move him out. And if I put him out of the bath, he'd come back crying. So I'd have to bring him in to try to explain to him to not to eat the bubbles out the bath. Yeah. And I remember him there, and I just, you know, it's really fucking weird. I've never told anybody. But I remember he was sitting there just walking around his little paddy pan and so on, and I was telling him what was happening. I'm going for another trial, Brad, you know. I'm going to go to Palace. The Brighton one didn't work out. And, you know, I'm just speaking to him, fucking walking around going...
Sometimes you just need someone to listen.
You know what I mean?
And
I just spoke to him and I said, I'm just going to fucking go for it. I'm just going to go for it. And it was at the time where Palace needed me or a striker, because Andy Gray was playing up front. They moved him into the midfield, put me up front not long after they brought Wright in. But I went to the trial, and once Steve Coppell said, "I'm going to sign you for 3 months," after I'd been there for 2 weeks, guys, the tears flooded down. I do a lot of crying. I cry a lot.
I've noticed that.
And then what's it called? They only signed me for 3 months. But that is all I needed. Once I got in, and honestly, the people, I remember I still go to the parties and stuff like that after games, and you fucking go in there, and the people from the ends, you know what I mean? The people from they were so fucking proud, man. Because remember we had David Rocastle doing his stuff at Arsenal. Just started kicking in.
It was the same area as you, wasn't it?
Yeah, we grew up on the same estate, so you know. And when that happened, you're speaking to the older guys, the OGs, you know, about, and they're saying this is where we can't be seeing you in these places too regularly. You shouldn't be coming here. This is your chance. You've done it. You're in. Don't fuck this up.
Didn't you score like a hat-trick on your debut or something like that?
No.
Was it 2 goals?
I came off the bench and scored against Oldham.
Oh, that's right.
You know.
How'd that feel?
It was, again, you know, fucking emotional because they were singing for me to come on. I kept coming off the bench as a substitute in a couple of games, and I really blasted it when I came on, hit the post, I think, in a couple of games, and it was exciting for the Palace fans. And I remember we were losing 2-1 against Oldham. We had a player called Kevin Taylor who scored a goal from the midfield. And I came on, I caused all sorts of problems. And then I remember Alan Irvine, remember him?
Yeah.
Played for Everton and everything. I remember went down the right side and he cut back onto his left foot and he swung one in. And I just, at the far post, I headed it in. And I remember the Arthur weight stand. I ran from there all the way down, clapping them, thanking them for cheering for me to come on. And that's where my affinity with the fans came from. Because, and the fact that, you know, if I'd done something what was a nice little bit of skill, they'd, So it was just like, it was perfect. It was just a perfect place to show off every Saturday. You know, you have a shot, just whistle past and go, they loved it. It was like, it was dream.
They're not expecting the perfection that other fans might. So any little thing, they're like, fuck me, it's amazing. Do you know what I mean?
This kid's
That's it. That's what Newcastle's like right now, mate. Honestly, get yourself down.
But it was, you know, it happened so quickly. Remember, this is something I've wanted since I was a child, and it happened in the space of 2 weeks. And you know, let's say it happened in the space of 6 weeks other than the 2-week trial. You know, all of a sudden, my life has changed.
And having 2 kids at that point, was that on your mind when you entered the pitch? Because for me, I mean, I remember when I went offshore and started working at that age, pressure's on you, like in terms of like if people are like needing you to provide for them or whatever. Could you wipe that out and just be like football?
I was very fortunate that because I love it so much. Once I was playing, you kind of forget what's going on the outside. You really, really do. Especially, I had so much to learn as a striker. Remember, I literally come off the Sunday football pitch, learning of making sure that you keep the ball in certain areas, making sure that you're not trying tricks in areas where they're going to win the ball and get at your defence. And it was really tough because when you got people like Jim Cannon, old hard Scottish centre half, and Mickey Droy and George Wood and all those guys fucking absolutely slaughtering you at half time. If you gave the ball away, this is where I know Steve Coppell couldn't wait to move those guys on because they were suppressing a young, vibrant Palace team, which everybody saw rise up in the late 80s.
Were there a lot of pressures then, or tensions in the dressing room?
Yeah, because the old guys were very much, very, very like jealous of the young guys coming through. Excuse me. So
would any of them make a man out of you and sort of like haze you and like really have a go and stuff like
Jim
that?
Cannon done that.
Yeah.
Jim Cannon done that a lot. I think when Mark Wright came, he was like a more experienced, older black guy who, you know, they kind of respected a bit more because for whatever reason.
But he's
like,
the nicest man in the world. I can't
great,
imagine Brighty giving it back if someone.
No, but he's not going to give it back in a abrasive way, aggressive way.
He's respectful.
He's going to be respectful,
right?
And he's going to tell you in a way that, you know, how you should do it, how Martin Luther King done it, how you're being a diplomat. Yeah. You know?
Brighty was basically the guy who I commentated with for the first time ever. And he like took me under his wing on that, and he's always a great lad.
Mark Bright turned me into a professional person. He was the one, we roomed together.
You wear cardigans together? You wear cardigans
He loves
together.
a cardigan.
He loves the cardigans, our Brighty. He loves
he's hilarious.
Oh, Geordie, good to see how you're doing there.
He's class.
You know, he
roomed together?
Yeah, we roomed together for years.
What was he like to...
He's so funny though, isn't he, man?
So down the years, who have you roomed with? You've roomed with some big names.
So Mark Bright, then Kevin Campbell, Dennis Bergkamp, Paul Ince of England, and then it got to a stage where, you know, you had your own room, which was much
big
better.
time then.
Did you become so senior that you would just like, look, just give me my suite and let me go?
No, I just think that it just happened like that.
Right.
It got to a stage where I think that rooming together was more a case of putting people together so that you can bond.
Yeah.
And, you know.
What was Pardew like in that dressing room? Because there's an image of him he seems really like stiff and a bit like you can't just chill out and have a good time. Well,
he can.
Could you have a good laugh with him?
Yeah, yes, Pards. And, you know, Pards is one of the guys that when we were in the meetings, he would be the one who would talk about the tactics and what's going on, what he thinks should happen and how he played. He's a very average player, don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? It'd be what you would call that holding midfield guy, but unbelievable energy. Easily the fittest guy at the football club at the time. But he's an intelligent bloke.
One of our mates, I think you know him actually, Pete Gibbons.
Oh, yes, you know Pete.
Yes, Big Pete.
He went over to a mortal drunk the other night in a nightclub. Pardew was there and he was like, oh, you know my mate True Geordie? And apparently Pardew turned it around and left.
Yeah, because he didn't know what was coming.
No, I think it was partly because Pete was absolutely off his tits as well, though. You don't really want to talk to Pete.
You don't really want Big Pete coming over to you off his tits saying that he knows another big fucking...
Yeah, if you just said, True Geordie's coming, you just go, fuck, get my jacket and go. You know, yeah.
No, so what was your like best memory at Palace? What's the time that you look upon?
I think when Jim Cannon and that left, and it was like, you know, me and Brighty and my mate Tony Finnegan, Jeff Thomas, people like that, John Pemberton, Berkey, that team what got us out of the second division and got us into the first division at the time. And when we got into the first division, we finished third. You know, after losing 9-0 to Liverpool earlier on in that season, we had a brilliant, young, driven, athletic team. Jeff Thomas, our captain. You know what I mean? And then myself and Wright up front, Andy Gray, Jeff Thomas in the midfield. That was hard to deal with. Young John Tolaco on the left, who was flying.
I remember
machine.
him.
Eddie McGoldrick, you know, and Neil Redfern before him. And then at the back, it was Eric Young, Andy Thorne, David Burke, John Pemberton. It was a team that had experience, pace, and we frightened teams.
Was there a sense of relief? Was there a sense of like relief when they first left those older guys?
Without doubt. When you the pre-season. Well, we finished. We you know the pre-season. The next time might have been '88 or something. It was magnificent. It was a joy to be a football.
Was everyone just like, thank fuck those twats are gone?
Yeah, it was a joy because like Steve Coppell, who was a young manager, they used to undermine him. So it was embarrassing for us with them, saying things to him. And I remember one time, me and Jim had an altercation on the training field, and I went inside. And he kind of almost said to me, listen, just stick it out, keep going, keep doing what you're doing. And this is when the times when he would say, do not change the way you play. That's why we signed you.
When you left Palace, wasn't there like a bit of a sour reaction from the fans?
Yeah, they were nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wrote Judas on my mum's wall, which is fucking terrible thing to do to a West Indian, religious, God-fearing woman. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Take me. It was like, Judas on the wall.
What was that? Did she ring you and tell you about that?
Yeah,
what
crying,
was that?
Crying.
Oh,
I'm talking about, obviously my brothers had to rub it off the wall and stuff like that. But it was something that, like the Palace fans who I love, you know what I mean? Like I got my man who's Cunny. He's on Reezy. He's on Twitter. I love him. He was a goalkeeper that when I got to 1 million followers, he was the first person I picked.
For the one more game?
For the one more game. He's my goalkeeper, Cunny. Ryan. And
so why'd you call him Cunny?
Because that's his name, Cunny.
Right,
yeah.
Fair enough, yeah. Just checking.
Right, so he is somebody that will fight my corner. Listen, Arsenal, Millwall was the first team I ever saw a football match at, so I've got an affinity with Millwall. Crystal Palace I would love. Crystal Palace is a girlfriend that in the end, somebody that I loved and I outgrew. I had to move on.
I love the way you're talking about them as women. He's like me, this guy.
So what was Arsenal then?
Arsenal is the love of my life.
The one you married?
Yeah, right. And a lot of that had to do with David Rocastle because when David Rocastle signed for Arsenal as a youth team player, and we found out literally the whole estate in and around the 80s, early 80s, 83, 84, I think it might have been, everybody, Arsenal was a team. So to end up playing there with him, as somebody that when we were younger, when him and his mate Kevin Arnold, unfortunately, both passed now, but we used to be playing football at the Creme, and they would try and sneak past because we were older. So I was like 4 years older than Dave, and like we'd be like 13, 14, and like then they'd try and sneak past to go and play on the swings. And we say, all right, in goal, you in goal that end, you in goal that end. And David Rocastle, put David Rocastle in goal, right? And David Rocastle would literally, remember, he would have been 9, 10. David Rocastle would get the ball, like when we were kids, and do that rush goalie thing. He'd get the ball, throw it like that, go through everybody, score the goal, run back in the
Brilliant. Goal. And you're still going, he's good in goal.
Everybody's back there. Get back in goal!
Yeah. What am I telling you?
You know what I mean? But like, that's how good he was. And that is why I think Palace fans feel that just because I signed for Arsenal and like everything I do is Arsenal driven, they think that I just because I went there, all of a sudden I loved them. That goes back. That goes back to David Rocastle. My love for Crystal Palace and the Crystal Palace fans that love me, people like Steve Parish, I love him. He's an amazing man, unbelievable owner.
Good lover as well, I've heard.
Well, do you know what I mean? I don't want to go into it.
Sure. That was a private time in rugby.
No money changed hands. Can we just say that?
But somebody who loves the football club, and his best times was mine and Brighty's times in and around Jeff Thomas times. And so my love for the club is something that will never wane. And I say to people that the greatest moment in my life would have been if we were able to lift the FA Cup in 1990 when we lost to Manchester United. I've gone on to win the Premier League and the FA Cup a couple of times, and European medals, Cup Winners' Cup. You've got to throw these things in because
you've got to. Otherwise,
let it be known.
I said to Palace fans, I'm leaving to win things. So if you leave, and I genuinely meant that, it happened within a week. From the time I was meant to go to Arsenal till it happened, it literally happened. I didn't ask for a move, I didn't instigate a move. I went to training normally on the Monday, went into Steve Coppell, and he said, we've accepted a bid from Arsenal. So it happened that quickly. So I didn't get to say any bye to them. But then when they done that to my mum, and then when I went to play against them, and they sang a song saying about my illegitimacy, I'm a bastard, I'm a this and I'm a that, it was fucking hard to take. And so, I scored every single time I played against Palace. I scored every single time and celebrated.
How did that feel?
It's bittersweet because, you know what I mean? Like I say, Palace gave me the opportunity. You know what I mean? People say, yeah, but you were good enough to take it. Palace gave me the opportunity, and the fans, especially the away fans, who sponsored me for most of my Palace career, sponsored my kit and sponsored my stuff. They loved me. So for them to be singing that, and it was hard to take. And so, celebrating and then kissing the badge at Arsenal. I thought that at some stage what they were gonna boo and then they would clap me off, but they were still really quite vociferous with their stick towards me, because I think that especially the numpties, it was a case of jealousy. I went to Arsenal and I was successful, and this is why I cater for the Palace fans that love me. I've got no problems with the ones that haven't got no time for me. They voted me their player of the century, the last century. I can't ask for any more than that. And so that's indictment enough to make me know what the Palace fans felt about me. But that was something, what they done and what they sang, it was very difficult to be able to take in, because I was very nervous playing against Crystal Palace. And I remember there's a time, I think I scored a goal to one of the seasons where they went down. And, the Palace fans gave me even more stick. I remember saying to Nigel Martin on that actual day, I scored the goal. And Nigel Martin said to me, fuck's sake, Wright, what are you doing? I said, I was trying to miss. I said, I was trying to miss. But I fucking can't. That's what I do, I score goals. I remember Nigel saying it. I said, Nigel, he said, fucking all right, you trying to put us down? I said, Nigel, I was trying to miss. I just can't.
So you're talking about a sad memory, like footballing memory. What about when you went to Arsenal and you and Rocky scored on one of the first games you played together?
The
was
greatest
that
game I've ever played in.
Like fairy tale stuff?
Greatest game I've ever played in, because I just told you, David Rocastle, somebody that, and I knew David because when I went to Turnham School, David Rocastle was probably in the infants. So I got there at 8 from Gordon Brock, and I got to the infants at Turnham. So David Rocastle would have been in the infants. So that's how long we go back. He was in the same class as my ex-wife, and so that's how far we go back. So then for us and he was a Crystal Palace supporter. So we played all our football. I remember there was one time, right, we was in the block of flats, and it was me, my mate Clive, my mate Conrad, Conrad's brother Trevor, David Rocastle, and Kevin Arnold. So he came into the block, just into the block, and he said, listen, I played for a team called Vista, right? And the team that they were meant to have, it didn't turn up for whatever reason, so we had to go over to Steelness School to play in this tournament with these people, with all their mums there and all their dads, all their kit and everything, and it was all thing. And it was me, David, like I say, Conrad, who's a good midfielder, Clive, who was a rugby player, and Trevor, his little brother, and Kevin Arnold, who was our substitute. And there must have been 20 teams there, and we won it. We won it with no one there apart from us and our young coach, what we had. And that's how far we go back, and we played. So when it happened that I was going to sign for Arsenal, it was fucking dream come true, man. Because like I say, David broke into Arsenal, and he was a magnificent footballer, man. What he done there, and when I got there, I remember I signed for Arsenal, went to his house, and we were talking about Arsenal until 5 a.m. Tottenham, what it means not to lose against Tottenham. I've told this story so many times, and he was somebody that he just. You mentioned Tottenham, shut up. You can't lose against Tottenham. Tony Adams the same, Merson the same, Mickey Thomas the same, Kevin Campbell the same. Everybody who came through, you can't lose against them. We spoke about it. So to actually play in the game, and then we got to the game, I was petrified, man. I remember I played in the first game for us against Leicester, And it was magnificent because they was playing a different brand of football and I was making moves, but the ball didn't quite come because there's other people making moves. And John Hollins used to tell me that. When you play for a team with better players, what's going to happen is other people are doing things and there's other options, there's more options. It's something that I had to learn. But it was so good to play in that because you got touches and I was making moves with people and I scored. And so that was the only time I played in the number 9 shirt for Arsenal because Alan Smith got injured or he didn't pass the fitness test. And then on the Saturday, Alan Smith came back and then Paul Davis gave me the number 8 and it was me. And the first goal was I went through, had a shot, rebound, David Rocastle scored the rebound. And then I scored a hat-trick in the game. So it was like, and then I said something about the Broccoli Boys. I don't know what it was, but it was the best football match ever. It was like living in the dream. I was living the dream. It was too good to be true. So when I only played with him for the year, when it came to the time where he left, I was devastated because I literally went there because I knew he was going to be there. And I went into training that morning and David was outside. I remember George Graham saying it was the hardest thing he's ever had to do. So he was outside and I saw him and it was really quite, you know, you could see he's agitated and I went over and as I went over, he had tears in his eyes and I thought, fucking hell, what's happened? I thought something happened, the family, something, and he just said, they're selling me. Fucking hell. I was gutted, devastated. We both started crying again. Because it was one of those things where I genuinely didn't think he was going to leave. It was just so, it was like Mark Wright saying when I left, he said, we didn't expect, when something hits you like that, bam, and you're gone. Mm-hmm. I didn't see it coming. So when he left, I was shaken I was wrong for about 2 months. I remember Tony Adams, you know what I mean? When I went in and like I had to go and see the boss, and like I was crying when I saw the boss and he's doing this big speech about, Ian, that's what happens in football. You know, he's doing his stuff with his Scottish accent. Ian, that happens. People move on. That's how it goes. You know, I'm quite pleased I've done the accent because it's made me fucking stop feeling like I want to fucking cry.
Where did he actually get sold to? Sorry.
Leeds. Jamaican accent.
Leeds, right.
Got sold to Leeds.
Yeah.
And like I say, it was out of the blue, and in the end we kind of dealt with it, but it was a very difficult one to deal with because it's never happened. That's the first time I've had any kind of setbacky kind of shock in football. Everything was just plain sailing up to then. Mm-hmm. Everything was brilliant at Palace. You know, I had all my people around me, everything was great. I was playing every week, it was great. And then you go to Arsenal, and then all of a sudden you're playing with your childhood friend, and you know, you know what I mean, and they sell him. Fucking devastated.
How much longer? How long was he at Leeds for before he obviously got his diagnosis?
Well, I think. Let me see. He wasn't when he got his diagnosis. He'd left Leeds by then because he went to. When he came back from Malaysia is when he got when he was diagnosed, and it was one of those situations where again, you know, it was really fucking hard, Brian, simply because he made the phone, he called, and so he's speaking like normal like this. So lymphoma, it was Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it was he phoned and he said it, and the way he spoke. When he talked about what it was, it kind of made you feel like, oh, okay, so it's fine. He said, yeah, I'm gonna go and check. It's gonna be fine, you know, and do this and that. And so from the time that he was diagnosed till, you know, he passed, it was literally the time what they said it was gonna happen. Mm. But
when he was younger than you as well,
yeah,
so you're sitting there thinking, fit young guy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So he died. When he died, he was 33, and I remember the hard thing about it was the phone calls that, you know, because I can hear, you know, when you spoke to him, his voice. It was a croaky huskiness that was, you couldn't help but, you know, tears. You know, you couldn't help it. And he would be the one trying to let you...
He'd be the strong one. Have you always had such a powerful memory? Because I'm shocked that when you recount things, the egg sandwich, like you remember so
Good
much
memory.
detail
It's
from moments.
Yeah, but it's the moments those moments literally they changed my life. So that's why I can remember what I was eating at the time, you know. And with David, I can remember literally every single phone call, and it's difficult.
How did you like get through that?
I don't think I can't, because like even in this kind of setting now, and
You take a minute, mate.
tissue.
Yeah.
When I think of the phone calls, how he was speaking, and you go back to your childhood.
Sorry, bro. Take a second, man. I know it's hard for you.
You go back to your childhood, and then you realise, and then what happens is, cheers, nice one, this one's.
I mean, we're scrambling. We're scrambling here. We're fucking shit, mate. Sorry.
Only the best
We're
tissues.
fucking shit.
You think back to when he was 9 and 10, and all those kind of moments. And I remember when I saw him in the coffin, Brown. It's an image that I've since then. Well, you know, you go to funerals and they've got them over. I cannot look inside them because I can't deal with the fact that at 33 he was gone. And his family, you know, his girls and Ryan, his son, his unbelievable wife Janet. You know what I mean? We're still very much in contact, but it's something that things like that happen to the best people. It's fucking one of those situations where I'm very God-fearing, and you know what I mean? I had to be because my mum was, and we had to do all that sort of stuff, but that's when I had my arguments with God, you know what I mean? Like, remember I was saying I was speaking to Bradley when he was a child. I fucking remember having this fucking screaming match, just speaking in a room about taking him and taking kids, and you know, with this terrible disease and it's just, I don't know, fucking.
It makes you question life, man. It really does.
It does, and the thing is that with religion and all that sort of stuff, you have to have faith. I have faith. It's things that happen and they continuously happen, like you know, where when something happens and then another thing happens and another thing happens, and you think, what the fuck, people. I remember when I was younger, my mum. And you know, they always got sayings, you know, like, you know, God's not going to give you more than you can handle, and you think to yourself, well, really? Because this is really quite tough, you know, to try and get answers for why David Rocastle gets taken at 33, why kids get cancer and die, you know what I mean? Why the parents go through the fucking shit what you have to go through when. You know, you're pregnant, you're desperate for a baby, and the baby comes along, and then in fucking 2 years, the baby contracts something like that. Why do people have to go through things? I remember having that kind of argument, just swearing, and the thing why I do my praying, like, because I'm God-fearing, and I just at the same time, you know what I mean, I'm very, you know, what's the word I'm looking for, Lawrence? When you're
philosophical.
Not philosophical. The other one where you're not quite sure.
Right. Okay. So
Agnostic,
you're agnostic in a way,
Exactly.
but I mean,
so
Exactly.
you believe in a God, but it's maybe
Exactly.
not.
Yes, because I think that's been ingrained in me.
Right.
Too many bad things happen. Too many bad things happen through religion and things like that. And a lot of stuff happens through religious beliefs. And so you do question that sort of stuff. And then you question, like, you know, I was hearing, it would have been, who was it? Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan said, you know what I mean, fucking, if scientifically you think to yourself, you know what I mean, yes, we were a certain kind of monkeys walking the earth. We fucking ate some mushrooms and it opened our brains up. You know what I mean? Is that any more fucking outlandish than what people say about how Scientology came about with Eden Hubbard, whatever his name, with the aliens on a spaceship, or the snake and Adam and Eve, a talking flying snake? Is a Neanderthal man walking around and all of a sudden starving, you know, walking around and found some mushrooms, ate the mushrooms, told it to his mates, then they start eating them, they get more wisdom and this and that because their minds are open. Is that any more fucking outlandish than listening to Adam and Eve being the creator? So
No.
those are the kind of things that I talk to when I speak, and I don't want people to think, fuck me.
No,
Greg
no,
Dyke.
but when people die,
Greg
though,
Dyke. What's that fellow who turned to Christ? What was it? Not
David Icke.
David Icke. People say,
No.
fuck me.
Greg
right.
Dyke was head of the
That's
BBC at one
what I
point,
mean,
yeah.
Sorry. Let's cut that bit out.
The thing is, though, when people die, the point is you contemplate life, mate, and that's what you're sitting there
That's
doing.
exactly
You're
what I'm
thinking, what
doing.
the fuck am I here
Yeah.
for? Why are people dying who I love? And we all have these fucking thoughts.
Yeah.
It's just you've got the balls to actually say it and say,
Yeah.
I sat in a room on my own and I fucking had a conversation with whatever was out
Yeah.
there and try to reason with what the hell is going on.
What did come of that conversation then?
To be honest, you say what comes of it, but I think that the mere fact that I was able to just be in there blasting it out because I was on my own. Because, you know, these are the times where, like, you see, like now, probably once we finish at some stage, I'll have a moment again where I'll probably have another conversation because it happens like that, because the David Rocastle death is something that I don't think I'll ever get over. I will never get over it. And so you say what came of it, I don't know, but I think that being able to say it was something that kind of gave me a little bit of I don't know, I got it off my own chest or something. I don't know.
Sometimes I feel like out of that kind of pain, and I've lost a lot of people. I mean, I lost my young cousin, 22 years old, 23 years old, and that. And you're looking at this kid and you're thinking you had it all. You know, you're just taken away from you. I kind of feel like when you're feeling like that, we do grow from that. You can't have that kind of pain and get through it without growing from it. You just, and that what you're sitting doing seems to me like you're just finding a way to.
Myself. And this is why I do feel very fortunate with the way it's gone for me. You know what I mean? I honestly, and now I've got a missus, my two little girls. You know, I've got a missus that is just amazing, guys. You know, she's perfect in respects of the person that I need to be with. And even the way we met in a pub, the Cow in Notting Hill, you know what I mean? It was a time where I'd split up with my wife, divorcing her, and I was there going to my mate Bardi's, who's a dear friend of now. And I remember I went in there and I saw her, and I remember I'd been involved in a 20-year relationship, you know what I mean? And you know, I remember when I told my mates I met someone, you know what I mean? Obviously being as close to me as they were, knowing that what I've just been through, what I've just come out of, they were very supportive. Listen, Ian, man, it's very fucking early, man. You got to be careful. Come on, man. Just relax and just live a bit and do this. I said, no. I know because, and the reason why I knew is that once I got her interested, she was fucking blanked me for about fucking 2 months, bro.
She's a massive Palace fan. That's the problem, isn't it?
She blanked me, but the thing is that my man Conrad, who used to do my clothes for at the time when I was doing the television shows, he lived with her and her sister.
So he's the one responsible for the leather pants then? I seen them, I thought they are 90s as fuck them, son. I love it.
I look back at it and I said, really? No.
But at the time, everyone wanted leather pants.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like,
You're like Ross from Friends.
Fucking cringy. Some of the times I look at my stuff and I think to myself, yeah, I feel like I look really cool, man.
Yeah.
I fucking look back, I look like a prick.
If you're not going to dress like that then what's the point, really?
That
Do you
was
know
the
what
whole
I mean?
point in the 90s, mate, honestly.
Yeah, but the thing
Is that why you have such an affinity with other, like, there are a lot of guys that you know that dress in a very outlandish way, sort of, you know, I see you out and you're a very suave dresser now.
I tried, yeah.
You hang around with a lot of people who are maybe questionable dress. You know, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, but it's like I say to my girls, I go back to my missus, but like I say to my girls, just dress like you're just getting dressed in the dark. Whatever you feel you want to put on, put it on. I saw an advert the other day where a guy got dressed in the dark, and I can't remember what the advert is. I don't want to promote it on here, but I thought, what fucking good idea, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that at some stage.
And that's why you've...
Clearly. And you picked the day, fantastic.
No, fuck off you two.
Yeah, it's funny because Brian does the same thing.
I just
I'm
mix and
coordinated.
match.
But the point I was making with my missus is that it wasn't like her bag. She didn't know anything about football, didn't know anything about me. I tried. My mate introduced, and I just persisted, and to the point where you know what I mean. I thought she's not gonna. But then in the end, I remember we were sitting in the car one time. I said, "Give her a call. See if she'd just come for a drink." just come for a drink, because she'd blank for a bit, but then she'd say hello, and I'd try to get in, but try to buy her a drink. She'd never take the drink. She said, no, it's fine, I'll get my own. And so it was really hard work, and I remember I literally could not stop thinking about her. Every waking moment, everything that was going on was thinking about her. And plus I was with him all the time. So you seen it? What's going on? Until in the end we got together, and it's the greatest thing I've done in my life.
What made you persist? Because there's a lot of women out there for him, right? Do you know what I mean?
She was the one, and I knew she was the one.
Can I ask about generally your relationship history, though? Because clearly, as you said, you weren't very good at it at one point.
No.
Why were you not very good at it, and why are you good at it
No
now?
guidance. I remember earlier on I said I didn't have a guidance. I didn't have a big brother guidance, a father guidance that made me realise how to respect women and how to treat people. And
Did you get that guidance, though? Or
No.
did you learn it? Because with me, I always feel like...
No, I learned it.
I didn't have
learned
the
what
dad
love was.
figure, so
Yeah.
I became him, sort of thing, and eventually.
And you know what I mean, it sounds like we're about to burst into song. I did not know what love was.
Yeah.
Didn't get love in a way that made me realise how I'm going to give love. Because the kind of love I got was, I don't know, I can't even remember. I remember saying to people, from a certain age, I can't remember getting a kind of
Affection in any way? Right.
kind of motherly kind of like, till I started fucking playing football, everybody was all over me. You know what I mean? Fucking if I got downstairs, like the first place I bought for my mum was at the top floor. If I got downstairs and I said, listen, I'm downstairs, I need to come up, fucking probably come carry me up. You know what I mean? And before that, you know what I mean, you couldn't get the time of day out of people. But, you know, I did not get love. I didn't know how to give love. And it's something that I'm still learning, because my wife came from a very supporting, loving family, you know, and I didn't know how to express.
What is it like being around that family now for you, when you see how they are around each other and you're like...
Sad. Very sad. Very sad, you know what I mean? Even, you know, me and my sister, up to this, we don't speak. I haven't spoken to my sister for, how long we've been together? I mean, that's 15 years.
Wow. Because I've got relatives who I've just sort of cut out of my life.
Yeah, but my sister was very disrespectful to my wife when we were younger. When we just got together, she's very disrespectful, because I remember we got together. It was we were together now, and my sister, obviously she knew my ex-wife and my kids, and so she felt like she had to take a side, which I couldn't understand, because I'm her brother. And I remember I had to fill in for Russell Brand doing Big Brother's Little Brother, that show. And she said she wanted to come. And I said, listen, my missus Nancy's gonna be there. And I said, I don't want no fucking scene. I don't want you to be disrespectful or rude. If you haven't got anything nice, just fucking don't go over, don't speak to her, don't do it. And what she done, I remember, so it's all done, I've done the show, everything's fine, brilliant, see her there and everything. What she done was, Nancy, you know, because that's her sister, Nancy, like, because she's a decent person, went to introduce herself, she totally blanked her in front of people. And Nancy was with her sister, totally blanked her, right? Saying something about, I have to be true to my niece and nephew, totally blanked her. So, remember, this has happened while I'm doing shows in the green room. And so when I came out, Nancy said, hey, what's happening? Where's my sister? You see my sister? And Nancy said, yeah. I said, well, where is she? She said, well, she you understand what happened? And I tell you what, you see, like I say about fucking, I'd never hit a woman, and I would never hit a woman. But when I was younger, we're talking about the restraint I showed with her when we were kids. To the point, when I went over to her at this time, right, this is why I know I would never, because I could feel it fucking from my toes, Brian, the anger. I could feel it. Because I asked her specifically, and she's like my mum. She says, I don't give a fuck about anybody. That's because like, my mum's the same. I don't give a fuck about my mum. That's how my mum was, that's how she was. They're feisty, they're in people's faces. And I went over to her and I said, as long as we live, I don't want to ever see you again. And the only time I will speak to you is when you apologize to her. And she said, I ain't fucking apologizing to anybody. And I said, well, that's fine, because that's good. I will never have to see you again, or speak to you again.
Understand.
To this day, when I was speaking, people say, life is short. And you know, people might be listening to this thing, yeah, but you know, no. There's certain times that people themselves have to realise, you yourself, you have to realise that is wrong.
Yeah.
We've been together for 15 years now. You know what I mean? Happily 15 years. She should see that this woman is the woman for me. Somewhere along and the fucking irony is, her and Mark Wright are together. Her and Mark Wright are together now.
Dun dun dun. I mean, fuck me.
You know what I mean? So that's what we need. So what happens now? What happens with them two now? Because Mark Wright is somebody that is a big brother, somebody that I respect as a big brother who's guided me. They're together now. What's going to happen? What's going to happen when they get married? What's she going to do? She's going to apologise before she walks up the aisle because it's not going to be acceptable.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about that? Especially as like a God-fearing man, someone who believes in forgiveness.
I want something to happen in that respect because my missus doesn't deserve to be treated like that. She's one of the greatest women in the world.
I understand that, yeah.
Right? So at the end of the day, my sister and her attitude from the time we were kids to now that she's still not spoken to me, who's done nothing but helped the family and everybody in every way I can, has still not found the decency to realise that she should have apologised by now. People will say, come on, you've got to forgive. No.
Because you know if you go down that road with her again and she's showing no remorse, that you're likely to get more earache later on, innit? So it's like...
You know what? The thing about it is that we've accepted that she... You know what? I've always accepted that I'm not going to be in and around her because if the way she's grown up is the way she is now, then I don't want to be around that person. But she's my sister. And you know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be like this.
No, you'd like to have a loving relationship with her.
I'd like to have a relationship with her because she's my sister.
Yeah.
But you know what? I can't do that because my principles say, and what I said that day is what I will stick by. Until you speak to her and apologise and tell her that you're sorry for what happened then, which Nancy would probably say, it's not a problem, it's fine. I will never speak to her again.
Is it weird for you that she's with Mark Bright, like, of all people?
Yeah, but the thing about it is that Mark's such a decent bloke.
Yes.
Knowing that we've not spoken for so many years, when it happened a few years back, and he phoned me to say to me, me and your sister are going to become an item.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Were you happy when he said that? Yeah?
I was delighted for him because at the end of the day, I'm happy for him. And to a certain extent, I'm fucking happy for her because she's got a decent bloke.
Amazing cardigans.
You know what I mean?
I love Mark Bright. I mean, I'm Team Bright all the way.
Yeah.
He's somebody that I love and I just want him to be happy. But like I say, that's just like I say, we're on here. And while I'm in this mode, that's what I'm going to say. This is why it's very easy for me to open up to like that. Because once I started seeing that lady, Rosalind Craig, she said, you speak and you get it out. What you're holding it for. You know, get it out. You know, make people know what you're going through. People need to know the journey if you are willing to give it to them. You don't just pent up and have these things inside you. You know
You're helping other people as well.
Yeah, at some stage, somewhere along the line, people are going to get in touch. She'll hear this Bright, she might listen to it. She'll find out. That's a fucking olive branch she's just got there, bro.
Because throughout your story, I'm sort of struck by the fact that there's a lot of chance in your story, that you haven't met the right people, you haven't done this sort of thing. And you say you're not necessarily religious, but you're a spiritual guy, God-fearing. It does seem how often do you sort of look up and think like someone is looking after me or like that sort of thing? Because there's a lot of things where you're saying it and you're teaching it as an older guy than me. Like you strike me as a very good teacher.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that in a bad way.
No.
But it seems you've stumbled across a lot of very spiritual conclusions, not through going to church, not through doing these things, but just like you've come across them in your life.
Church and God's in your heart, really. This is why when people say about going to church and, you know, you have to be in there singing, doing your stuff, you know, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But, you know, the spiritual vibe I have is still one where I can still question the faith. The main thing at the end of the day is to have faith because that's what he wants. He's not going to just do something where you're going to see a miracle and then you think, oh my God, there is a God. Why would he do that? Because then everybody would just say, well, there is a God, so let's do that. That's not how it is. He wants people, righteous people, to come to him, to find him and have faith in that. And like, I'm not preaching to people. I'm not telling people to go to God or go to church. I'm just saying my journey of it is that way. I think of it like that. I feel that there's something, just like I feel that we may have found mushrooms. You know what I mean? But
that sounds so funny, bro. I love the way.
The thing about it is, but this is what I'm saying. So to answer the question, Lawrence, there is so much chance and things that's happening in my life. You have to think, come on, man, he's having so much fucking luck.
It's like that old story, though, isn't it, where someone lost at sea, and then the ships come along, and he goes, "Do you need a hand?" And then he goes, "Oh no, I'm waiting. God's going to save us." And then the third boat comes along, and then he goes, he dies, and he meets God, and he goes, "I sent 3 fucking boats." Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. That's it. So were the mushrooms sent by God? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, that's part of
that's it.
That's the first time I heard that.
Yeah.
That's the first time I heard that.
It. Are we getting wrapped up now, bro? Are we?
Do we have to, or are we okay?
Okay. All right. I've got 3 more questions.
No,
all right?
really? Can't we do a Joe Rogan and just keep going?
We can get some mushrooms. You know.
Well, we do a part 2. I'm thinking, because there's loads of shit I want to.
There's so much stuff. We've got long lists of stuff that we just haven't asked you.
Man, I'm really fucking. So I've gone on too long.
No, you've
that's
smashed it.
Fucking
Mate, this will be
hell.
one of my favourite podcasts ever.
Oh God, I'm really.
We'll do
fucking
another
sorry,
one.
man.
All right.
Sorry,
That's it.
First of my last 3 questions.
Go on, then.
If your life was a movie, what would be the middle point of that movie? What would be the turning point for you, where you were like,
The beginning of Act
if you
2.
look back on it, what's the
Prison.
right?
Because I remember I had to do the television show with Football Behind Bars. And I remember I asked them, because I had to go back to Chelmsford, C Wing, and it was a second cell in. And I said to them, because I remember when I was leaving that prison cell, Brian, I remember sat there and I said, I will never, ever come back to a place like this, ever. Right? And I remember going in there, because we was in there, and I said, can you just lock me into this one? And I sat there and I felt so fucking proud of myself.
All right, it all came flooding
Oh,
back.
Jesus Christ, man. Because I remember lying there when I was 19 with not a clue what I was going to do when I came out. Not a clue. So I'm sitting there, wrapping up this show, and I said to just lock me in that one for I said 5 minutes, because I fucking get very claustrophobic. 5 minutes, and I thought to myself, all the memories came back. I remember when I was in there and they locked the door, your liberty is gone. Your liberty is gone. You're sitting there like an animal, almost. And I remember sitting there dressed in my gear, and you know what I mean? I had my long coat and my hat on, and it just came back to me, and I said, I'm fucking proud of you, man. I'm really proud of you. Well done. Up to this point. Up to that particular point.
I like that. If you had to choose between being liked or respected, which one would you choose?
Respected. Because I think that when you're respected, you're gonna have to upset some people, you know, to gain your respect. I think when you're being liked, that's just fucking vanity, innit?
It's funny as well, because you actually don't really have to choose, because you've got the liking and the respecting, which is
people
quite
love you.
rare
Fantastic.
It's funny, but like, you know, like if, you know, when you look at the comments, you get so much fucking love sometimes, man, and then you see one person say, "You fucking prick."
And that's the one.
Where can I fucking send
And that's the one.
yeah.
That's the one that sticks out.
And you know what I mean? I laugh at myself in that respect. I laugh at myself, but I think if anything you're doing, if you choose to be liked over respected, then you still got some living to do.
Do you think you aired a little bit at one point? You know, when you were talking about going to the entertainment side of things, that was the time where it was about being more liked than respected.
What do you mean?
You know, when you went into doing TV and entertainment and those sorts of things, a lot of people were trying to shape you into a guy that
that's when
people
they did.
liked.
Yes.
Like, say, the Jester, that guy.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching you as a kid. There was a show. What was it called?
Friends Like These.
No, the guy with the beard. It was a panel show, a football sport panel show.
Oh, it was the one where
It's like there was a really fat guy who used to host it.
Rory.
With a beard. Rory, yeah. He was a nice guy.
Rory McGrath in it?
Yeah, Rory McGrath was in it. And you told a story, and it always stuck with me.
I think it's all over.
They think it's all over, right? And you tell this story about you had a new Ferrari, and you turned to whoever was in the Ferrari with you, and you went, "Watch this." And the next thing you've hit a lamppost.
Next week we fucking spun over. It was fucking hilarious. You know what? That was one of those.
How can you laugh about crashing a Ferrari? What a fucking
The funny thing is, they were
prick.
Righty, you've got a funny story, and Righty just went, "Absolutely." And you told this. So what
You know
was
what
that?
it was? I'll tell you what it was. It was a time I bought this Ferrari Modena, a convertible one. And I was so fucking upset with this car because I had a black Berlinetta which I should never have sold. I should have kept it to this day. I got rid of it and bought this stupid blue convertible Ferrari. And the thing with the Ferraris now, you've got a button on it, and I got into so much trouble with the insurance because they didn't want to pay me out. They've got an ASR button on it, what you have to switch off. And I had it for, I'd say, 8-9 months, and it's literally like a tiger with no teeth with that button. You start driving it and it just goes, slows down, unless you turn this button off, right? So I've been trying to sell it, and I bought it for something like 117 grand, right? And the guy who sold it to me said, "This is the one. This is the one what everybody wants. If you come back to me in a year, I'll probably give you your money back for it." So I think, yeah, brilliant. I went back to him. He said, "I could give you 104." I went, "What the fuck? Fuck, you said this is the car that doesn't lose money." So anyway, I started driving. I was taking this ASR button off, and I was with my nephew Shane, and we're driving up this hill, and it's got a really nice little chicaney bit at the top of it. And so we're driving up, and I said to Shane, "Watch this." And I went, boom, and fucking floored it, and I went, turned it to the right, fucking back end started to go. So I tried to get the other end, and it fucking hit the pavement, fucking ran up, got a seatbelt, fucking rolled over his thing and slide down the hill. And then I remember there's a fella on a ladder saying, "That's just really stupid." Really
unreal.
Stupid. And then the first thing I thought to myself, "Quick, run!" Yeah. And I thought, "What the fuck am I running for? Fucking got insurance, I've got Shane, quick, get it!" And I went, "Oh, fuck."
He's back in the
I'm Ian Wright.
Yeah.
Within 2 minutes, there was like paparazzi there and everything. But at the end, because like it was insured for like, I got all my money back.
It's not moral of the
I got
story.
117 back for it.
Unfucking money comes to money, doesn't it? These prick footballers, I tell you.
You're religious because
honestly,
literally that is ridiculous.
I'd believe in God after that. I would have died in that.
Yeah.
All right.
That is amazing.
All right, my last question is, how would you like to be remembered?
I think it's pretty easy for me because I feel very fortunate to get to the stature that I've kind of carved for myself. Still, like I say, I get respected by people, but I want to be probably remembered for somebody who just got the opportunity and done the very best with it. I wasn't the most educated guy, so I've constantly had to learn along the way. And one of my biggest, I'd say, one of the things that my biggest hang-ups is not paying attention and staying in school to the point where I could educate myself. Because one of the things that people used to say to me a lot was, he can't string a sentence together. He's you know what I mean? Fucking, he needs lessons. You know, he's fucking. And that would be something that when I read those kind of comments, it used to really. I'm very insecure about that. So I've kind of had to, along the way, just try to educate myself and make sure that I just want to give people value for money. So what I would say about myself is, I just want to be remembered for the person that got the opportunity and did I rang it out. There's nothing left in that rag to squeeze out, and that's all I want to be remembered for.
Mate, it's been an absolute fucking pleasure. Thanks for coming.
You've got to come back.
I don't know, man. I can't come back. Okay, I didn't even get to talk about Newcastle and you know what I mean.
We'll do that.
We might have to do that. Then.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to see more Ian Wright, he's got his own YouTube channel now. Shout out! We'll put the link in the description below so they can subscribe to the Ian Wright YouTube channel. I love it.
That's where I'm doing my stuff. I'm just letting people know how it is. But thanks, guys. I really appreciate True Geordie, Brian. I love you, people.
Nice one.
Bring it in.
Cheers, everyone. Stay subscribed.
Nice one.
Coming on.
Bring it in.
Mate, you're
Big
a
man.
fucking legend.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.